Hello, this is Claus Jensen presenting a game from round 9 of Tata Steel Chess. In this video you're about to watch the exciting game Aronian Shirov, which ended almost an hour ago. Aronian, playing the white pieces, desperately needs a win to join the leaders of the tournament, while Shirov struggles in the bottom of the field. Aronian is white and the game started d4, d5, c4, c6, the Slav defense, knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, e6, bishop g5, knight b d7, e3, the Cambridge Springs variation, queen a5, c takes d5, knight takes d5, queen d2, bishop b4, rook c1, h6, bishop h4, c5, bishop c4, c takes d4, queen takes d4, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, castles, castles. And here it does look natural to put the d7 knight on b6, but then black would be under additional pressure after bishop b3, bishop d7, c4, knight b4, c5, knight 6 to d5, and e4. So instead, Shirov here played knight 5 to b6, bishop b3, rook e8, and rook f to d1. And white is having the clearly more active position, and black has difficulties developing his pieces. On the other hand, white has weak c and a pawns. Queen h5, interesting move from Shirov. I think the main purpose is to make space for a5 and still being able to support e5 if necessary. Bishop g3, this move would be necessary sooner or later. Aronian preferred sooner, and then came e5, opening up for the bishop on c8 with tempo. And even though it also activates white's bishop on b3, I still think it's an important freeing move for black in this position. Queen b4 and e4, knight e1, a5. And I think Shirov has equalized at this point, even though he's a little underdeveloped. Queen d4, knight c5, rook b1, knight takes b3, and here Aronian takes on b6, and knight c5, and c4, bishop e6, Shirov completes his development and everything seems to be fine for Shirov. But then Aronian plays a very nice tactical move, securing him a small plus in the middle game. And you might want to try to find the move that Aronian played here. You can pause the video if you want to have a go at finding the move that Aronian played here. Aronian played the very nice move, rook d5. And the move does two things for Aronian. It blocks the bishop's attack on c4, and it also blocks the queen's defense of the knight on c5. So Shirov has to take the rook, otherwise the knight on c5 would be lost. So bishop takes d5, and now queen takes c5, and this is the point of the combination. The bishop on d5 cannot move because the unprotected queen on h5 would be hanging. So rook e to d8 instead, and then c takes d5. So this tactic from Aronian has given him two light pieces for a rook and a pawn. Nothing decisive, but when you have the white pieces, you have to try to create imbalances in the game if you want to win it. Queen takes d5, queen c2, b5. Shirov has this positive imbalance on the queen side. He has the pawn majority here, and this may be of importance later. Queen b2, b4, bishop e5. This move is threatening bishop takes g7, but the main idea is to put the bishop on d4 to close one of the important files for Shirov's rooks. Queen d2, Shirov continues to offer a queen exchange, and queen a1. Aronian is not interested. Queen e2. And for the third move in a row, Shirov ignores the threat of bishop takes g7. And what would happen if bishop takes g7 in this position from Aronian? Again, you could pause the video and try to figure out what Shirov had planned against bishop takes g7 in this position. If bishop takes g7, then Shirov would surely have played rook d2, and Aronian would be in trouble because of the threat on f2. And for example, bishop h8, threatening mate on g7, would lead to a mate for white instead. Queen takes f2 check, king h1, and queen f1 checkmate. So the best defense would be to play h3, but after queen takes f2 and king h2 and king h7, then there are several pawns hanging in the white position, and black is also dominating the second rank, and this would be clearly better for Shirov. So Aronian cannot take on g7, and instead he simply plays bishop d4 to block this d file for the rook. Rook a to b8, h3, f6. Now Shirov finally blocks the attack on g7. Rook b2, queen goes to b5, queen b1, queen d5, queen d1, and rook b to c8. And at this point in the game, there's not much in it for any of the players. They play some calm moves trying to improve their positions. Rook d2, queen e6, king h2, rook d7, g3, and rook d to c7. And the position looks very balanced, and perhaps Aronian felt a little desperate here. He surely wanted to win this game to stay in touch with the leaders of the tournament, and the game is currently going nowhere for him, so he decided to play the very interesting bishop b2, allowing Shirov to take the a2 pawn in exchange for a discovered attack on the queen. But where should the bishop go? And Shirov was not afraid. He took the pawn, queen takes a2, and said, okay, Aronian, show me where you want to give this discovered attack. And Aronian decided to play bishop e5 here. And now Shirov could have had the advantage with the rook c1. And after queen takes c1, rook takes c1, rook takes a2, f takes e5, rook takes a5, and rook takes e1, it would be Shirov who had the edge in the game. And that would have been interesting. But instead, Shirov played a surprising move. He played queen takes d2. And after queen takes d2, f takes e5, then all of a sudden the game is alive again. Now it's queen and knight versus two rooks plus two important passes on the queen side. And on surface this could look as an advantage for Shirov, but I think it's fairly balanced after all. Queen d5 check from Aronian, rook f7, king g2, rook c to f8, and the rook on f7 is pinned on to the king, so rook takes f2 is not possible at this point. h4, king h8. Now rook takes f2 is possible, and Aronian takes on e4, allows rook takes f2 check, king h3, and b3. And Shirov has to make the most of his most important asset in the position, his passed pawns on the queen side. Knight d3, b2. Aronian has to stop this pawn, and he plays queen b7. And now Shirov should have played a4. And after knight takes b2, a3, knight d3, a2, queen a6, rook d2, knight takes e5, king h7. Shirov would have chances of drawing the game. But unfortunately for Shirov, he made a game-losing blunder here. He played rook 8 to f7, and then came queen b5. Ouch! Because now queen e8 check is a threat, and the rook on f2 is also threatened by the knight. And if the rook on f2 leaves the f file, then queen e8 check loses the rook. And if the rook leaves the second rank, then the pawn on b2 goes. Instead, Shirov tried a4, and then came knight takes b2, a3, knight d3, rook f1, queen a4, rook h1 check, and king g4. And now there's no way to save the pawn on a3, because rook a1 would be met by queen a8 check, so Shirov resigned the game here. And one has to feel sorry for Shirov in this game. He made one blunder and lost a game where he did play reasonably well. On the other hand, one must congratulate Aronian for taking some chances in order to create imbalances in the game, and Aronian was rewarded with a win and is now one of 4 players on 6 points after 9 games. The other players on 6 points are Nakamura, Anand, and Kramnik, and just half a point ahead of those 4 is Carlsen. The tournament is getting more and more exciting. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you on my blog at klausjensen.com. Bye bye for now.